Test, test. Hey, what's going on? It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. I had to feel like I had to do this before I got even rustier at it. And some of this information is going to be old because it was like supposed to be done a long time ago, and I just never got around to it. But first things first, just let people know that we're here. But if you're not a subscriber, become a subscriber. If you have not hit like even before you listen to this. You don't even need to listen to this to hit like. Just trust that it's going to be good. I assure you it's going to be good. You can hit like without hearing anything first. It's Friday night and people are vaccinated like crazy, so I have no idea if we're going to get the usual Friday night turnout. Who knows? But I'm confident. I feel like there's enough people who have turned into couch potatoes post COVID that they're still home on Fridays. We'll see. Yeah, I know a lot of y'all might be out enjoying your newly vaccinated swag, and you're just out there just sitting on dirty toilets and dive bars getting HPV, just having a good old time. So I'll take what I can get tonight. We'll see who shows up. Oh, not a bad. Yeah, I'm back on the blue blockers. I feel like, why not? I'm just trying them out and seeing. uh yeah, yeah, but let me just let people know we are here, and then we'll be ready to go. Go to champagnesharks.com for all your Champagne Sharks related links. You can go there and get the merch, the PayPal information, all types of good stuff. How to support the show, the Patreon. But we'll go through that again anyway. Let me just go on Twitter and let people know that we are here. Mm, 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 mm. But yeah, Patrisse Cullors quit. It's crazy. Yeah, yeah. I'm doing Periscope tonight for the first time in a while. We'll see, because Periscope is on post on Twitter, and there's a lot of weirdos on Twitter who end up in the comments once we're on Periscope. Let me just let people know we're here. Yeah, but let's see. Let's get going. Yeah, so I was planning to do one final thing about the whole Black Lives Matter mess and the stuff that they're in, but the plan was to focus on Alicia Garza and some weird stuff with her. But then lo and behold, Patrisse Cullors quit. And yeah, so she quit. And it's funny because to the end she was still claiming it was right wing saboteurs who were uh, causing her the problems. But now we reached a point where left leaning and other types of publications have finally started talking about it. So it's interesting to see if that she's still to the end is pretending that this is a right wing smear job, and you're only supposed to dislike it because it's the right wing talking about it, not because you can prove anything is actually on the up and up. Incognito, yeah, it's on YouTube as well. I tweeted the link at Twitter. Yeah, how's everyone doing? Yeah, people hit like up and people hit like in the comments. I mean, like on the video. I still don't know what tangible benefits the likes get, but YouTube swears it helps us get discovered. But yeah, check this out. So their big defense was, hey, this is the left wing, I mean the right wing saboteurs and haters who are, you know, causing all this mess. And I think the Daily Mail is pretty tabloidish. It's not a left wing thing. I don't know how right it is, but yeah, let's see. So This appeared in Daily Mail. She's taking the money and running. Tamir Rice's mom leads Black mothers of police shooting victims, slamming BLM director Patrisse Cullors for profiting from their dead kids and quitting with $3 million property portfolio. Now, I believe it's over 3.5 to be honest. I think it's closer to 4 than 3. But I mean, anyway, um, I mean these aren't right wing people. This is who do we have? We have Tamir Rice's mother, Samaria Rice, and she was calling her out like crazy and saying she was saying that you know they haven't given them any money or paid them any real attention or anything. Then Lisa Simpson, the mother of Richard Risher, said she hasn't received a penny from BLM, um, despite a local Los Angeles chapter offering to donate 5,000. Which with all the money they're raking in, that's not really much of anything. Breonna Taylor's mother called out Black Lives Matter Louisville and used the word fraud to describe the organization. So that one is more of a local complaint than the national leadership, but still shouldn't have anything glowing to say about the national organization either. So yeah, I mean it's not all just right wing people, but it's starting to show. And Lisa Simpson said, speaking of Patrisse Cullors' sudden departure from the organization, now she doesn't have to show her accountability. She can just take the money and run. Yeah, so I mean, this is not just right wing people at the end of the day, no matter what they try to pretend. But it doesn't matter. She gets to quit. She said, and it shows here what she said. She said that she was leaving BLM to focus on other projects, including the release of her second book and a multi-year TV development deal with Warner Brothers. So yeah, she's going to be focusing on that. And even at the end she's still saying that it's a right-wing complaint and she doesn't owe the right wing any explanations. But what do you owe the mothers? I guess it doesn't matter. They might be victims of internalized conservatism. Maybe they internalized some conservatism from the New York Post. Who knows? But I mean, that's that. But this is what's interesting. This is what I found interesting recently is that the New York Post finally, no, the New York Times finally talked about it, and yeah, she's not just selling out; she's cashing out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so she's beyond selling out; she's literally cashing out. But yeah, real quick, if you're enjoying the chat, hit the super chat. That's in the stream. Where the chat is, you hit the $sign, and you can, give a donation. If you give a donation, we will highlight your comment and read it out loud. Or you can do a super sticker. But yeah, that's one thing you can do. You can go to PayPal at champagnesharks@gmail.com if you want to give us a PayPal contribution. If you're enjoying the stream and the work we do, you can hit us up at Venmo or Cash App at Champagne Sharks. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Champagne Sharks, if you want extra episodes of the podcast and a bunch of other goodies, only $5 a month. And even if you're already a monthly subscriber, if you go to there, you can upgrade to annual subscription for a discount. So you can just pay for a year at once and get a discount. That's always great. And last but not least, you can always just like, comment, share, subscribe. That's always appreciated as well. And all this stuff is just gonna be all this stuff we're gonna put scrolling at the bottom, so you can keep track of all that. You don't have to like write it down or backtrack. All the different ways you can support us are on the bottom. But yeah, New York Times finally mentioned it. And how long have we been talking about this? We've been talking about it for a while. So uh I guess it just got so egregious they had to do something. But it just shows how so much of these people are, kind of in bed with each other. And it was kind of a half-hearted. It was still kind of making excuses for them. But this is it. It says Black Lives Matter has grown more powerful and more divided. Since the murder of George Floyd, the racial justice movement has received millions of dollars in donations, which I think is a lowball number. But some chapters have questioned how those funds are spent. And this just came out this week. And it's June 4th. Last Friday. In the years since George Floyd was murdered, racial justice orgs across the country have been inundated with millions of dollars of donations and thousands of eager new activists. They have earned a prominent platform that puts them on the front lines of political and social battles. Their influence has been immediate. A local org helped St. Louis elect a black woman as mayor for the first time. A longtime activist group in Louisville, Kentucky, oversaw what became a hub for over the police killing of Breonna Taylor, but I don't know if that group was BLM, Louisville, or another one that he's talking about. If it's another one, I don't know why they would be getting credit for it. And if it is BLM Louisville that he's talking about, then I would also wonder why he's talking about them, because Breonna Taylor's mother is not satisfied with them. But whatever. That's a whole other issue. But the surge in attention has also brought greater scrutiny and exposed tensions and challenges within the movement, um, much like the Women's March. Okay, so in a very public dispute, several chapters within the national organization known as Black Lives Matter Global Network broke away, claiming the group's national leaders had failed to provide financial transparency or include the chapters in decision making. This was a long time ago. This is that 10 that we talked about. Like, how many months ago have we been talking about that? We've been talking about it forever. So they're like making up for lost time here. They mentioned Michael Brown Sr., who was disappointed with dealing with them and how they kind of abandoned after they got famous and got some clout and just bounced to crash the next protest. Yeah, so another thing too is this article does the problem of acting like they're responsible for every protest and everything in the protest, when really this time around none of them are really active anymore in this space when the George Floyd protests popped off. And Black Lives Matter Global Network and the three founders had nothing to do with the wave of protests that happened after George Floyd. But now everyone just calls everything a Black Lives Matter protest. So this article is kind of giving them like this credit. So it's saying the sway has only grown since Mr. Floyd was murdered by a Minneapolis police officer. In the weeks after his killing in May 2020, an estimated 15 million to 26 million people participated in about 4,700 demonstrations across America, accounting for the largest movement in the country's history. But this is the problem. They didn't organize any of those protests, or hardly any of them. Even around here, it was just people who were mad or local activists just getting together and getting bullhorns and running out there. People said Black Lives Matter at the protest because that's the slogan now. But yeah, I mean, I saw anarchists, Antifa, black nationalists, all types of people, regular black folk, and yeah, some of these type of Black Lives Matter style activists were there, but it kind of makes it seem like them being the biggest, largest movement in the country includes all those protests. But they are right that when it came to fundraising, see, like this same conflation that it's doing is why when it came time to fundraise and everything, all these people, all these celebrities, all these corporations just signed a check over to Black Lives Matter and gave it to them. Like, this article perpetuates that same conflation that leads to them making so much money on donations. Um, so that part of the article annoys me, that it's continuing that thing of giving them credit for things they didn't do, and in a way that helps soften the negative information that's going to come later. Chapters that broke from the Black Lives Matter global network, calling themselves the BLM 10, issued an open letter in December that said internal attempts at seeking transparency had gone nowhere. That's half a year ago. We've been talking about it since it happened, but that's half a year ago. I think at this point, BLM's kind of become radioactive enough that even a lot of other people trying to save face by distancing themselves from them. Among their primary concerns was the organization had not detailed how much had been raised in donations or how the money had been spent, so forth. If Black Lives Matter could not be transparent with its own members, the chapters argued, then it could not be a credible advocate for the communities it aimed to serve. Leaders of the global network defended the way it was spending the money and emphasized that the breakaway chapters criticizing the group were not officially affiliated with it. So they threw them under the bus. Yeah, but um from W.E.B. Du Bois' criticism that Booker T. Washington was too accommodating to white people, to ministers objecting to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's Jr.'s approach to protest as too worldly, tensions have long been a part of social justice movements. So what does this paragraph mean? Like, it's kind of saying, well, this happens. Look at W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. People protested about Dr. Martin Luther King, and it's like nobody was saying that Martin Luther King was making whatever the inflation adjusted version of $90 million in one summer of donations is. Like, the fact that it brings that up, like, it has nothing to do with anything. Every protest movement, every type of movement has internal tensions. Like, why bring up all these iconic, revered figures? It's a way to kind of give them cover. It's almost a pointless paragraph. Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a point to it. The point is to still kind of carry water for these people, even while just giving the news. Like, it's shameful enough to kind of admit that your paper is only just reporting something 6 months after it happened. 1/4 of your chapters is an open revolt, and you know, yeah. So yeah, so and then way deep down, like near the end of the paragraph, it says it reported receiving 90 million donations last year, the most it had ever reported in a year. So yeah, real late in the game, it mentions the amount of donations. It says here that they received tax exempt um status as a nonprofit organization last year. So that makes sense, because remember I said for a long time they have not been a nonprofit organization. So it looks like it finally went through last year. That's probably why they had to finally disclose what they made and why they had to say they made 90 million, because now that becomes one of the requirements. So that makes sense. So yeah, for all these years from 2014 to last year, it was a for-profit organization incorporated in Delaware. That's why they didn't have to be transparent, and they always promised they were going to go nonprofit. They kept dragging their feet about it. So this makes a lot of sense. So that's probably why why it finally gave away everything. So we have no, and I still think it's a lowball number. And you still have to think about all the other years that passed that they didn't have to disclose anything. Yeah, so she resigned from her post, but I'm sure the people who are left are still people that she picked people from like it's not like it's a kind of thing where they throw her out and it's like new people and take into a new direction. So I think it's still gonna be her people. I think it'll still have the same systemic corruption issues and whatever. So all in all, the article is kind of weak to me, and it brings up the mothers of the victims, which I think is probably one of the most important things you should bring up. They shouldn't just be at the rear of the article, and second to last shouldn't be the amount of money raised up. But hey, it is what it is. Um, yeah. So I mean, you've seen all these things bringing up some website called the Post Millennial was talking about the mother speaking out. So it was getting way too embarrassing. Embarrassing, I think, for them to stay silent on all these magazines and newspapers and stuff. So, but I think it's a safe time for them to finally report on it because their name's kind of mud now anyway. So now, like after the fact, now that everybody knows about it, now that the damage is done, I think it's safe for them to actually talk about this stuff. But it's way too little, too late, and it's meaningless if you ask me. But yeah, that's funny to me. What's going on, Pensieve of Dorv? How you doing, Ruzbe Moderasi? Hey, man, who went to? How's it going? Yeah, big time. I mean, there aren't any black publications anyway, you know, and all we have are white-owned magazines with black faces. So the root's not really any different. Like the root's not really any different than being the black reporter at the root, which is owned by Gawker, is not really any different than being the black person employed by BuzzFeed. They're like the same person. You know what I mean? Doing the same job. They're both black people working for a white liberal organization. And the only difference is the root has a buffer layer of a fake black storefront or a black site, to kind of hide that it's really black people working for white liberal media. Whereas the black person that works at BuzzFeed doesn't have that layer of plausible deniability. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really a stretch. It's stupid and insulting. Yeah, but I'm gonna show some other stuff real quick, and why I think it's just not worth the grief for a lot of these people. We've played this before. We don't have to play the whole thing again, but it's worth just looking at about how clownish this is, right? This is Mark Lamont Hills first talking to Patrisse Cullors. I just want you to look at this real quick. But check it out. My screen's a little frozen, so bear with me. Now I went too far down. So we're gonna go back up. Okay, here. 346 likes to 1,800 dislikes. And then all the comments are just bashing. 1,700 comments, and they're all like just mostly bashing. And they're not all from just, MAGA types or whatever. It's a whole bunch of black people complaining in there too. So this is all to say, like, it's a lot of people are just bringing down their own credibility and making themselves a laughing stock. This one had an even a worse ratio, 108 likes. This is part two to 538 dislikes. So that's like 5 times the amount of dislikes to 2 likes. That's how insulted people were by this, you know. Yeah. And the comments are pretty good in those videos. You search Mark Lamont Hill Patrisse, and you'll find all of them. But it's all pretty comical. So I can kind of see the reason I show that is because I can kind of see why a lot of these people now, it's in their favor to kind of like, first she's gone, she left the organization, the brand is already dead at this point. So what's the, you know, so at this point they get to save a little face by actually doing what they should have been doing all along, which is like reporting on the stuff. But they're doing it like belatedly, like, you know, way after the fact, way after she got to leave on her own accord and didn't have to be like, you know, pushed out by bad press. And but you see like how it damages you and your brand to like back up blatant shills like that, because that's not a good look for Mark Lamont Hill and his fledgling new entertainment outlet. That's like the first thing a lot of people are seeing from this new BNC is that crap. And I feel like since that video, his public persona has taken a hit. Just a lot of ways to see people talking to him and about him online. You know, he's squandered a lot of whatever level of goodwill he still had, you know. And he really needs to get black people on the side now after that whole Palestine thing and controversy and mainstream firing. So I don't think it's a good move to do that. But here's something else that was pretty comical. Tamika Mallory did this. I don't know how many of y'all seen this thing. Let me see if I can get it to enlarge. I don't know what.
25 years.
Here we go.
For 25 years.
Tell me if you guys can hear the sound.
For 20.
I don't know why it keeps.
20.
Why does it keep looping?
20.
I think I have too many tabs open. Let's try this again. In the meantime, I'm gonna see what else I can close. I know what I'm gonna do. Okay, so is it still waiting to come up? But yeah, this is March 25th, 2021 that this happened. Hopefully it works now. Tell me if you hear the sound. Damn, everything is going slow.
Women, they always encourage me to use every single resource to help another young woman who's on. For 25 years of my life, I come from a very long line of strong women. They always encourage me to use every single resource to help another young woman who's on her journey. I am sure Black women will lead this nation to a better place. We're taking control and we're shaping our stories. For 25 years of my life.
Now, I found that interesting. First off, that she, you know, did that commercial. Why is it only talking about Black women again? Like, it's weird that it's become so normalized to treat Black women as their own race, their own kind of like it's weird. This all this clout and everything is gained off the deaths of mostly Black men, but then they can't wait to pivot into intersectional narrative and, you know, just talk about like Black women. It's something like, I don't know why it's so hard nowadays just say Black people, you know. Like, I mean, when it comes to certain topics, I can see singling out a gender. You know what I mean? But other than that, it's yeah. But anyway, in the meantime, here's some of the stuff that BLM had been doing in the last couple of months of Patrisse Cullors' reign in the old guard. They put up 7 demands around the time of the Capitol riots, and it's number one: convict and ban Trump from future political office, expel Republican members of Congress who attempted to overturn the election and cited a white supremacist attack, launch a full investigation into the ties between white supremacy and the Capitol Police, law enforcement, and the military, permanently ban Trump from all digital media platforms, because that's what's most important, defund the police, don't let the coup be used as an excuse to crack down on our movement. So, as usual, talking about themselves, and pass the Breathe Act. And I feel like this is more of their whole attempt to get involved in mainstream politics and be a straight up Democrat organization um, thing. But yeah, the whole 7 demands thing I thought was pretty silly. It showed up on their website. They put it on the website. So I'll put it on the screen. I think it might be down now, but you can see them here. So they gave this thing, and they've been veering to vague electoralism and partisan politics and trying to be Democratic players for a while. And I feel like this is part of that. I mean, Trump is already out of office at the end of the day. Like, what are you still talking about this stuff for? But that's what they wanted to talk about. And this was a key when I was talking about Mark Lamont Hill, like messing with his credibility. This is a example I was talking about. Check out this clip. We might have played it before. This is a short one, but it's worth looking at. This is from one of those massively downvoted videos. And if you want to know like why people were downvoting it so much and laughing at it and trashing in the comments and calling him like a shill, just look at this. I mean, people are calling him like Mark Lamont shill and all types of things after this video. I don't know why it's still going so slow. Let's see. So, BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors explains why owning multiple homes doesn't betray her Marxist principles. So, for the record, owning all those homes doesn't betray Marxism. So you might wonder, okay, how is this not betraying Marxism? And you know, Mark Lamont's here to help you find out.
Extravagant homes of any sort or multiple properties of any sort is itself contradictory to the ideology that you hold. And so it's not about having money per se, but that it's about or about property per se, but it's about there being a potential contradiction between your expressed politics and your lived practice.
Sure. And I think that is a critique that is wanting. And I say that because the way that I live my life is in direct support to Black people, including my Black family members, first and foremost. And for so many Black folks who are able to invest in themselves and their community, they choose to invest in their family. And that's what I've.
So she said that the reason why she is not betraying Marxist principles is because she's supposed to like reinvest in the community and redistribute money, and what she's doing is redistributing money to her own family because her family is part of her community, which is I think the most. And he doesn't challenge that. He's like, well, there we go, we got our answer. Like, come on, man, you're a smart guy. You can't let that fly. You know better.
First and foremost. And for so many Black folks who are able to invest in themselves and their community, they choose to invest in their family. And that's what I've chosen to do. I have a child, I have a brother that has severe mental illness that I take care of.
that's all sad, but that's not
I support
Marxism.
my mother,
I support my
and I
mother.
support many other family members of mine. And so I see my money as not my own. I see it as my family's money
Yeah, so that makes it socialist.
as well.
So
So a
so
critique
so
though
by
from
that
the
by
left.
that by that by that metric, then I guess Donald Trump is socialist too. Like he sees his money as his family's money. So yeah, that is the that is like seizing the means of production. I guess that is material redistribution of wealth. So if you want to know why like those likes were the way they were, that's what that was pretty funny. I mean, to me, I thought that's capitalism. Call me crazy, but I guess it's not. You know, that's buying houses for her family is um trained Marxism and socialism. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know, I will say people like Bernie Sanders and a lot of other people have had a hard time selling socialism to the masses, but I think a socialism that is basically just like capitalism, I think that'll do it. If you tell people that that's socialism, you know, hey, you can form like nonprofits and make a bunch of money, and then you know, after that, the most socialist thing you can do with the money is buy houses for your family and go on spa trips. You know, I think people are like, oh, this is the socialism we've been hating all this time. I think you'll suddenly find socialism will be a very popular. Maybe it's what we have to do. Like, just make a socialism or just capitalism. But just call it socialism, and then. But yeah, I mean that's just funny. That was real funny. Um, what else? What else? What else? I don't want to repeat myself. I want to make sure we stay. Oh, yeah, they put some other stuff up. And this is gonna be the last one on this topic. You know, this is all the stuff I didn't get to talk about already. But the practice that house access. Somebody said practice that house access. Yeah, yeah, that's funny, man. Now we know what socialism is, man. This is that's some funny stuff. You gotta love the audacity of it, though. I mean, on a strange level, but I guess it's easy to be audacious when you have people throwing you softballs like that. You know what I mean? And friend of the show, Aki, asked this I thought very good question on social media. You know, and she's a black woman who is not right wing. You know, that's despite what Patrisse Cullors was trying to tell you. That's only but she's saying this in response to a different interview, and this is one of Jemele Hill and Alicia Garza. And in this one, this came out around the same time as the scandal about the houses. So Patrisse Cullors went on Mark Lamont Hill, and Alicia Garza went on Jemele Hill. And uh, Aki made this great point. She goes, at this point, we all need to ask ourselves why the media continues to push an advocacy group onto us when we are clearly rejecting them. I've never seen this happen to any other marginalized group. And that's a great question. I don't know if it's happened to any other marginalized group that the media is obsessed with pushing someone that you know is just not happening. It's trying to make fetch happen, like Mean Girls, trying to make BLM happen, and it worked for a while. But black people have checked out of that for a long time, and I think even white people, because even though I don't think white people really care that much about really empowering black people, at the same time, for this stuff to work as virtue signaling and a cleansing of conscience, they don't want to give to a too blatant fraud either. If you become too blatantly fraudulent, then you don't really work for the purpose that white liberals want you there for. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, not like she's trying to justify hoarding millions of dollars. She is trying to justify. Uh, I define my community as my bank account. Yeah, basically. Maybe her bank is like something like such and such community bank. So maybe that's what she means. There's community in the title. I don't know. Yeah, I would love to know what her community is. I mean, well, nowadays the community she's living in are rich, so I guess now she is supporting her community, right? Paying property taxes in that community. But check this out. This is from her Jemele Hill appearance.
I also really worry about us right now. And this isn't about Samaria. This is about our movement. We are absolutely winning right now. Absolutely. We have done more than change the conversation. We changed the balance of power in the federal government. We are winning. And when you start to...
Now, first off, how did they do that? And second off, how does that help regular black people in the streets? They didn't change anything. Joe Biden didn't enlist them for help at all. And like I always say, all they did was stand in front of the waves and just act like they were directing the waves to go where they were already headed. They didn't do a single thing. If they were having this much sway, then they would have gotten Elizabeth Warren way more votes in the primary from black people, which they couldn't. They couldn't deliver anything. They don't have any actual popular movement. They don't have any actual grassroots support. They don't have any popular support. They're just handpicked control opposition. They're good at getting money from like guilty white people or people looking for a tax write-off and are too lazy to look at who's really doing the work. But they didn't do any of the stuff she's talking about. It's more of the march, pray, love stuff, just vague, new age, consultant speak
winning.
And stuff.
And when you start to win, there are all kinds of forces that try to keep you from winning.
So basically, she's just saying haters gonna hate. It's that if you got enemies, you must be doing something right. She basically said it's because we're winning too much. That people are, and again, the wins to me are dubious. I am very, I'm tired of hearing about these imaginary wins that no one can really prove or properly describe. But hey, whatever. Whatever's clever. But something else I want to show you guys, and the reason I'm pausing so much is because for some reason my internet's really slow today. If I knew it was gonna be this slow, I would have unplugged and replugged the router, but at this point I can't do that. Yeah, exactly. They're not winning anything. They were crying about Biden not meeting with them. They play T-ball, but say they pitch a no-hitter. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, they couldn't pass the George Floyd Act. Someone said Samaria. No, Samaria. Samaria is Tamir Rice's mother. So basically, that's a good. I'm glad you brought that up. So in response to a question about people going in on them about no transparency in money, she brings up Tamir Rice's mother, and like no disrespect to Tamir Rice's mother, but people, that's just Samaria is. But people are hating on us because we're winning. Because wait, you're trying to say Tamaria Rice is a hater? That she's hating on you because you're winning? Like what sense does that even make? She's not really addressing Tamaria Rice. They're just going to the same old talking points. It's silly. But check this out. Gonna show another one. This is an old tweet. I don't know if she deleted or if it's still there, but I have a screen cap of it from April 22nd, 2019. Patrisse Cullors tweeted, "I'm so tired of being the Black Lives Matter girl. Can't wait till folks see me as a writer, artist, anything but this tired idea / projection of who I am. I swear to God." So it's like you're tired of being the Black Lives Matter girl in 2019. This is around the time it all dried up. And this is when she's pursuing those writing gigs on that ABC Freeform show. I think it's called Good Trouble or something. And she got her CAA Creative Artist representation, like the biggest um, agency in Hollywood, you know. But yeah, somehow when all this money started rolling in, she wasn't tired of being the Black Lives Matter girl anymore. And at the end of the day, all those artists and writer things that you're getting is because you're the Black Lives Matter girl. That's what it is at the end of the day. That's why. Oh man, they planned their exit before they started, if you ask me. You know, but yeah, in 2019 it was slow. You know, they failed the first time around. They got nothing done. They maximized that first wave, and it dried up. So she was ready to cash in and cash out and do something else. But then the George Floyd thing happened, and suddenly she's the head of Black Lives Matter again. You know, this organization that she swore she was done with, and suddenly she's popping up all these house. Yeah, it's basically extracurricular activity on a resume. If the extracurricular activity could get you 4 houses, you know what I mean? Yeah, but picture activists doing that back in the days. After a handful of years, you know, after 5 years, where you got nothing done, have not created a single like theory or workable, like none of their books are gonna last past a year. They're just made for clearance bins. They're not gonna. All their memoirs are already forgotten. They're just disposable publisher content. You know, like you pretty much have not made a lasting impact beyond like a hashtag and a slogan that people say at protests. But you're already tired of this and you're cashing out. Like, what did you do that you're ready to say, you know, I've done enough. I'm too tired. It's like boxing for a round and you're like, oh, you know, I'm throwing in the towel. It's just too much. You're making like a big show of it. Like it's the final round of like Ali Frazier. Yeah, it's that alone I find like super disgusting. The fact that got no traction either, you know what I'm saying? If MLK was trying to get an HBO show. Yeah, that's what it would be, right? That'd be amplifying Black voices bargain bin coming to Barnes and Nobles near you. Yeah, it feels like a Ponzi scheme, but for clout. That's exactly what everything is now. That's what this whole activism, media, Black creative woke complex is. Just a giant Ponzi scheme for clout. I think you totally. And you know, it's funny. Before that article happened, when New York Times finally acknowledged this after like 6 months, I think Patrisse Cullors stepping down was just too big. This is what I think it was. Once Patrisse Cullors, one of the co-founders, stepped down, there was no way they couldn't cover that story. At that point, it just got too big. Like the last of the original founders has left, and she was the head of the organization. So I think the New York Times had to talk about it at that point. And they couldn't talk about it without bringing up the other stuff. So they, you know, brought it up as like almost an afterthought, like a footnote, and put a bunch of like fake accomplishments at the beginning, like claiming that BLM organized all the George Floyd protests, and you know, giving all these numbers of protests, and then without explicitly saying so, leaving for the reader the implication that this has been all BLM's tireless efforts, because that kind of helps to justify the 90 million if you make it sound like that. If you tell the truth that they were just sitting around trying to get Joe Biden elected and had moved on from that stuff and were just doing vague electoralism, and in the meantime just letting people's lazy association of their name with Black protests allow the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor murders to enrich their coffers while they didn't actually do much to actually earn that money, that doesn't really sound as good. So yeah, but the week before then, to give more examples of like how stacked in their favor the media is, and a lot of things that they. Someone said no alert from YouTube. I think you have to hit the bell notification. Supposedly, if you hit the bell notification, it gives you right. But Washington Post wrote this story, which I thought was ridiculous. From Ferguson to Palestine, how Black Lives Matter changed the U.S. debate on the Mideast. Like how? Yeah, they went over there after they finished doing like bupkis in Ferguson. They went over there for a Palestine photo op, sure. Which, first off, I'm like, you haven't even solved the problem for Black people yet. How are you gonna even help other groups? Like, you haven't done anything except just say Black Lives Matter in front of cameras a bunch, and then move on to the next protest. And now you're going there, but these people use this article to make this case in the Washington Post. That somehow Black Lives Matter, by calling for Palestinian liberation 6 years ago on a field trip they took to Palestine to take some photos for Instagram, that planted the seeds for the current alliance. Black Lives Matter, which has grown into a potent political force amid a national reckoning on race, has responded forcefully to the violence in the Mideast to extend its reach into foreign policy, pressing the Democratic Party to adopt a dramatically different approach to the long-standing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. No one is listening to Black Lives Matter on this issue in Washington. I'm sorry. Stop just making these silly articles. I don't know who the editors are or who are just letting them. Like, I feel like they just treat these people like, it's very insulting to me. I feel like they just treat them like kids with crayons, and it's like, we don't take you seriously. Just scribble whatever you want for daddy, and I'll put it in the fridge. Like, this, I don't even go on anymore about the article. I just want to give an example of like how the article, I feel like I don't want to give any more attention to. I mean, but yeah, I just find it so silly how, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they're reporting about Black Lives Matter, instead of about the 25% of their chapters bouncing, the lack of transparency, all the years as a Delaware corporation, where they didn't have to disclose like over 7 years of donations, people suing them, people changing the name. No, here's what we're reporting about them during all this turmoil and financial transparency issues. We're making up stuff that they did, that they've changed. I mean, the only thing that supports the idea that they had any effect on Palestine is that nothing's been resolved. That's the only thing that makes it similar to the rest of their handiwork, in that pretty much nothing has happened and nothing good has happened for the Palestinians. That's the closest this comes to being similar to a Black Lives Matter operation, you know? That's a good question. I don't know. I've kind of given up because I feel like grifting is like so normal now, you know? Yeah. Who wrote the article? It was two black guys, I think. It was two people. I closed the window. I would look it up, but I closed the window and the internet's acting too funny, so I don't feel like reopening that window. Every single window I open takes like forever. Yeah, but I thought that was really ridiculous, crediting them for the Palestine discourse. And let's see. Yeah, make sure you're hitting those likes. Check the scroll in the bottom to see the different ways you could support us. Hit us up at PayPal at champagnesharks@gmail.com, or Venmo or Cash App at Champagne Sharks, one word. Or just hit the super chat. All those things are very, very helpful to us. So let's see what else. This is a great question. Before before thinking of what will come, we should think what can come out of it. And I agree with T. I don't see what can come out of it. Yeah, I mean, the worst thing come out of it is people stop messing with Black Lives Matter specifically, but the way things work, people don't learn from the lessons. Like all the people who were getting on us and calling us haters for not supporting these people now, you look at them now, it's cool to tweet about what scammers these people are. But these people won't learn the lesson. They won't admit that they fell for it in the beginning and were ignoring us when we were saying the opposite. And a lot of these people who now find it cool to bash these people, a lot of them, when the next pair of grifters come out that the powers that be put in front of us as controlled opposition, a lot of the same people are going to fall for the exact same shit again. It's going to happen all over again. It's like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 100 times in a row, I must be doing black politics. That's basically how it goes. Oh no, the same trap will work next time. They'll just jigger it. They'll just change it a little bit. They'll take some shea butter out of it. You know, they'll put extra shea butter in it. They'll do something to switch it up. You know, like the current blueprint, I think won't work. Like this whole Afro-punk type look with the mix of queerness and natural hair and a little bit chubby and glasses and the whole particular package, the constellation of trappings, that might not work. They might have to change something in it. You know, they might have to switch to some academics and maybe use Ibram Kendi or something else for a while, change some terms, maybe start citing more Afro-pessimism and less intersectionality, but they'll change it just enough to fool everybody again. I don't think it'll take that much. Yeah, someone said we'll get with new variants like COVID. That's exactly what it is. You'll get new variants of grifter. You get super variants. Yeah. So anyway, she stepped down. She got to keep the money, avoid scrutiny, keep her writing gigs. She fully transitioned. It's going to be tough though, because I'm wondering how relevant she can stay in Hollywood without this clout behind her, because I don't think anybody's really checking for her great writing or artistry talent, far as I know. So I think unless she produces something really incredible or looks into something, it doesn't have to be incredible, because a lot of whack things get popular. It'll probably be whack what she does, but if it's a whack thing that doesn't resonate in some way, then I think she's going to be screwed. I think she has a minimal amount of goodwill outside of being the head of Black Lives Matter, you know? So yeah, so you know, she resigned, and here's her words behind why she resigned. The embattled, this is from the New York Post, the embattled co-founder of Black Lives Matter announced on Thursday that she's resigning as executive director amid criticism over her lavish lifestyle. Patrisse Cullors, 37, who has been at the helm of the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation for nearly 6 years, I think she had recently gotten bumped up, but anyway, said she is leaving to focus on a book and TV deal. Her last day with the foundation is Friday. And here's a quote: "I've created the infrastructure and the support to get houses." That's my addition. "And the necessary bones and foundation," I guess the foundation that the houses are built on, "so that I can leave. It feels like the time is right. But a resignation comes amid controversy over the group's finances and Cullors' personal wealth, including an alleged real estate buying spree, where she snagged 4 high-end homes for $3.2 million. So I'm actually wrong. It is closer to $3 million. I thought it was 3.7. But Cullors said her departure has been in the works and is not tied to those quote-unquote attacks. Those were right-wing attacks to try to discredit my character, and I don't operate off of what the right thinks about me, which is a load of crap. Like these people create their own excuse. So what I mean by that is no one in the left wing or in the liberal media wants to cover her critically or give a tough stance or anything. They just treat it like blogs and cheerleading on a giant live journal website, or a giant like Facebook wall of just toting up your friends. So they make it so that the only place left that will write about this stuff is the right wing. Then they can say, oh, you're gonna trust the right wing? Why is only the right wing talking about this? Those are right wing attacks. So yeah, they're right wing attacks only because no one else is talking about it. It all it proves is how corrupted that the mainstream media is. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the rest of it is stuff we already know. The rest of that article. But yeah, it's funny till the end, till the final moment. She is still talking about right wing attacks, and I wanted to show something that was pretty interesting. They've been getting all types of grief because there's no one really vetted them in liberal and leftist circles, and unfortunately, a lot of leftists who did have problems with them had problems with them because of like identity politics, class reductionist reasons. So they were getting on them for making a big deal about racism in the first place. So the liberals were just, true believers because they like the uselessness and how much it focused on white allies over any real black empowerment. And then a lot of the leftists just were disputing them for like the wrong reason. So no one was really doing the real journalism on this. Unfortunately, the right wing ended up doing it and getting to frame the narrative first. But whose fault is that? You know? But this is funny. Something that happened with them. Someone in the chat said, fight the right wing attacks, ignore the left wing criticisms, the Obama playbook. But the problem is, the left wing criticism wasn't even the right left wing criticism. What criticism they got from the left wasn't for being frauds or whatever. It was because of, some people saying, oh, class is the answer and not focusing on race and stuff like that. So yeah. Check this out. So New York Post talks about BLM removes page on nuclear family structure amid NFL vets criticism. This is from September. Black Lives Matter scrubbed the page on his website this week that disparaged the Western prescribed nuclear family structure, prompting a former NFL lineman to blast critics who accused him of previously misinterpreting the organization's incendiary message. So they had a page called What We Believe that included his public policy positions, as well as describing itself as part of the global Black family. And what they said is, we disrupt is funny, it's such tech speak. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and quote unquote villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. It's interesting that mothers and parents are held separately. Like they don't just say black families, because I guess they try to find a lot of ways in the original page to avoid saying anything that might be construed as including black men. So they use a lot of weird language like that. I think black mothers and family is kind of meant to include alternative structures that don't necessarily have to include a traditional nuclear father, a nuclear family father. But if you look, right, And this is what is interesting about them. They're not good scrubbers because they don't do the most basic thing, which is go to um the Wayback Machine and get the Wayback Machine to take your old stuff down. So if you go like to archive.com, archive.org, or the Wayback Machine, a lot of this stuff ends up still being on there. So they scrub it, but it's very easily, yeah, like black birthing people and just weird language like that. There's a lot of Orwellian language that happens. They have some. I'm trying to go to the site, but they have some kind of thing that's keeping it from going through. I'll show you what it is. Let's see if it's up yet. Oh yeah, here it goes. So this is the current Black Lives Matter thing about, and it's pretty innocuous. Black Lives Matter was founded in 2013 in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer. Black Lives Matter Global Network is a global organization in the US, UK, and Canada whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence on communities by the states and vigilantes. So far, so good. By combating and countering acts of violence, creating space. Here's more of that March, Pray, Love stuff. This is more of that, stupid airy fairy language. Like these are not actual demands or goals that are tangible. But here we go. Not like, eradicating the wealth gap, not making sure poor black women have access to healthcare, that everyone can get into schools. Just this March, Pray, Love. Combating and countering acts of violence. Okay, how or whatever. Creating space for black imagination and innovation. Like, what does that mean? Creating space for, like, what does that mean? Centering black joy. We are winning immediate improvements in our lives. And it's very vague. Look how vague it is. We are expansive. We are collectives of liberators who believe in an inclusive and spacious movement and just bring as many people along the way. And they still have the anti-black man stuff, but they have to keep it as vague as possible because I guess people are catching on. So it says we must move beyond the narrow nationalism that is all too prevalent in black communities. That's the closest they can come to trying to sneak a diss at black men. We affirm the lives of black, queer, and trans folks, disabled folks, undocumented folks, folks with records, women, and all black lives along the gender spectrum. So I guess men fall in, like, it's the most begrudging afterthought. Like, so they mention everything, including undocumented folks, before getting to and they can't say black men, they can say lives along. So I guess it kind of just lumped into there. Like, they might just say everyone else, our network centers those that have been marginalized within black liberation movements, which is another low-key coded way to say not black men. Like they claim that black men have marginalized everyone in these movements. And then the call for Black Lives Matter to matter is a rallying cry for all black lives striving for liberation. So again, the all black lives matter is the same as saying all lives matter, but to black people. But the black version. So basically, that's supposed to imply that all black lives matter, not just straight black men. But notice how kind of sneaky and backhanded they have to do it. But that's the new thing. But it's kind of funny, even in the cleaned up version, so as to avoid some of this criticism, they still can't help taking their shots. So it's the black imagination for these people is making pudgy Sailor Moon. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like a pudgy, queer, race bent Sailor Moon is their imagination. Yeah, so they can't even mention black men in passing. They have to put them in like all this other stuff. It's but now we're going to look at the original version. It's still up, I believe, on the Wayback Machine, and it's just funny. It's very telling, and I guess part of being mainstreamed and being a Democratic Party organization, which is what they want to be. A lot of these like salt of the earth regular Democrats, they don't want to hear that crap either about abolish the nuclear family and stuff like that. So I think it might be really for white people, but Here we go. The first paragraph's the same. Second paragraph doesn't have that new March Pray Love stuff where it says space and black imagination and center black joy. This one is still vague, but at least sounds a little more proactive. It says where every black person has a social, economic, and political power to thrive. Okay, I could deal with that. It gives a little origin story about how they got started, in Ferguson. They don't mention Ferguson anymore. I think because people in Ferguson hate them, and it's too like they probably don't want anyone to look up or Google Black Lives Matter Ferguson because you're gonna find all the people bashing them there. So they took Ferguson off of there. So the new one's way shorter. For the record, this is the older one. And then it goes, we work vigorously for freedom and justice for black people, and by extension, all people. So to make it clear that it's an organization to help everybody, not just black people, which I think already kind of compromised it. Because what's wrong with just helping black people if you're a black organization? Like, it doesn't, as long as you're not actively tearing down other people, but whatever. We are unapologetic. We are unapologetically black in our positioning, blah, blah. We see ourselves as part of the global black family, and we are aware of the different ways we are impacted or privileged as black people who exist in different parts of the world. So basically, they're trying to say like American black people are privileged compared to the rest of the diaspora blacks, it seems. Again, I don't see what makes this movement really good if you're spending so much time policing other black people's privilege at the same time. Like, these people want to infight and fight another army at the same time. Like picture an army trying to fight an army and infight at the same time and try to have two battles at once. It's like you're fighting you're advancing this way, but you're also like fighting each other, but then trying to stab. Like, common sense says you don't do that, but whatever. So it says, we are guided by the fact that all Black lives matter. So again, like, not just black men, regardless of actual or perceived sexual identity, gender expression, economic status, ability, disability, religious beliefs or disbeliefs, immigration status or location. So this is that new intersectionality where every black person is broken down to a subgroup, and we have to worry about, like, black people as a whole can't get rights, but we're going to worry about infighting first and foremost before we. So basically, we all have crumbs, but before we start fighting to get a pie, we're gonna fight over divvying up the crumbs first. Then once we fight over that and who gets the most crumbs, then maybe we'll get to worrying about the pie. Like get a pie first, then you can like fight for who gets the biggest slice. But right now you're just fighting for the biggest share of castles in the air. There's a lot of oxygen in this room, and I'm only getting 10% of the oxygen. I want 15% of the oxygen. Like, you're fighting over nothing. We make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. Like, what does that have to do with Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin? Fighting about who gets to be visible leading in front of the camera or whatever, and to make sure like transgender people get a chance to participate and lead. But we are self-reflexive and do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege and uplift black trans folk. So it's like, okay, picture right after Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown die. Two black men, two poor black men. Well, not poor, but they're not balling out. Like, blue collar or like probably lower middle class or whatever. But I mean, neither of them are what you would call like upper middle class or upper like elites, with a lot of political pull or power or whatever. And you go to this website to see what this organization is about, and it's talking about this stuff, dismantling cisgender privilege in the Black community so that we can uplift Black trans folks, especially Black trans women who continue to be disproportionately impacted by trans antagonistic violence, and making space for the trans people to participate and lead. Build a space that affirms Black women and is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men are centered. The whole thing so far is about making sure Black men don't lead a movement. Like, why is your response to Black men dying at the hands of police a site with this mission statement, and the site is spending more time complaining about Black men and how much of a terror they are to the rest of the Black community as a response to these Black men dying? And one of the reasons why these Black men die is because they get stereotyped as brutes, to the point where even like a 12-year-old or a teenager will always get described as like a hulking figure, or seeming like an adult in the case of Tamir Rice or whatever. Like, you're perpetuating in this a lot of the stereotypes that people use to kill these Black men to begin with. So if you look at the original website, I mean, it had a lot of transparency how messed up it is. I think that's why they had to kind of change it to what it is now, which is still taking us little shots, but they kind of made it clear up front like what they were about, and it wasn't about really the kind of people who were dying. Those people who were dying were just a Trojan horse to get in their own ideology, and they're really, at the end of the day, a Black queer organization, which is not bad, but just be real about it. Don't use this Trojan horse thing. And to a degree, I guess they were kind of real about it on their website, but they were still sucking the air out of these movements built on the bodies of, like, dead masculine presenting Black men. So that part is very, dishonest. So, it goes on. We make our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children. We dismantle the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts so that they can mother in private, even as they participate in public justice work. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages. I already read that part. We foster a queer affirming network. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking, or rather the belief that all in the world are heterosexual. So yeah, they've talked about everything except helping Black men who are killed by the police. If you notice, the first paragraph is, we formed in response to the death of these Black men who were killed by the police. Now, here's all the things we want for trans people, undocumented immigrants, such and such people, queer affirming, for mothers, for alternative families, for for Black men to stop centering themselves, who gets the most attention in the movement, who gets the tight grip of heteronormative thinking, abolish the nuclear family, help so that people get presumed to be heterosexual all the time. Like, that's a real solution to what happened to Mike Brown, like, making sure that gay people don't get mistaken for straight. Like then it goes, we cultivate intergenerational and communal network free from ageism. So they even got into ageism now, before talking about actual stereotyping and of Black men that leads to their deaths, or any systemic issues or structures that leads to all these homicides. They've made their way to even to ageism now. And then we believe that all people, regardless of age, show up with the capacity to lead and learn, and that's the end of it. So it was smart of them to change it, but a lot of Black people have been catching on. A lot of Black people have been catching on to that stuff too, and I think that could kind of change it because of Black people as well. Yeah. Who reads this and thinks this is for anyone but affluent college educated blacks and whites? That's a great question. I think a lot of people just weren't reading it. Her perception of black males is really warped. Yeah, the whole thing is more concerned with black men and how fucked up they are than it is about white supremacy. Like, I don't think white supremacy even appears in that. It's, you know, like, you just got a laundry list of how tyrannical black men are, you know, and also like it's like Dank Uyghur says, they're in it for attention. So much of it is about who gets to be in front of the cameras, who gets to be censored, and yeah, not a lot of nuance on how families are forced to function. Very true. Yeah, so it's a big joke. I want to show something else too that had been happening. It's just some more fuckery with Alicia Garza. So someone interviewed her on YouTube, and it was one of those puff pieces. I think this is it. Let's see.
When you were on Roland Martin's show and Ice Cube was on there, he spoke about his Black Agenda contract, and he said that he was open to working with you. Did you ever hear from him?
No. And I would like to say for the record that I did reach out to him both in the group chat that Roland put us on directly after the show, and I reached out to him individually, and no, I did not ever hear back.
Thirsty. And let me tell you something right now. I guarantee you, if she got the meeting with Biden instead, she would not reach out to Ice Cube and be like, hey, do you want to come with me? I guarantee you in a million years she wouldn't. She would not. She'd be like, you're heteronormative, patriarchal thinking, and you're a Trump supporter, and you know, we can't have you in there. There's movements too. As usual, her books are in the back. You know, she's plugging her books. But yeah, so I just hate the hypocrisy of it. You know, this idea that she's entitled to come along.
That's fascinating. You know, it's funny. Some people were disappointed at the way that he appeared to dismiss the kind of the way you've been treated under this administration. You know, you've been.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the video wasn't syncing with the audio, but let's continue.
The death threats.
There it is.
You know, when, you know, just terrible things.
Notice you brought up the death threats. So these people all work together because, you know, remember in the last video I said these people always bring up death threats all the time. What does death threats have to do with whether she deserves to go along or not? You know, but whatever.
They felt like he was dismissive and a bit offensive. Did you feel that in the exchange, or was that just how we saw it from looking in?
And first off, what a loaded question. He's like, yeah, a lot of people said that he seemed dismissive and an asshole, you know. Did you see that what everyone else saw too? Like, who saw that? Like, most people I know thought, like, you know, she came off like very entitled and thirsty for the spotlight, you know. Yeah, it's a softball way to ask a question, you know. Yeah, someone said the Morehouse jacket. Yeah, but none of this is meant to be critical. This is all just propaganda. That's so funny. These people always go. This is why, at the end of the day, only right-wing organizations have any negative press, because they only go on sympathetic outlets. And you know, the person who'll be covering her at, like, say, New York Times or Washington Post will be someone like this guy anyway. You know.
You know, I felt that. I honestly felt like he maybe felt ambushed, and I don't think he expected me to pop up on that screen. And so, you know, in that vein, I wanted to give a little bit of compassion, but I also took it as, you know, we have very different approaches to how it is that change happens. And as I said in that interview.
Now, pay attention. We have different approaches to how change happens. Now, listen to the same March, Pray, Love, New Age vagueness. These people, like, watch a Kwame Ture speech, watch a Elaine Brown speech, watch a Martin Luther King or a Malcolm X speech or whatever, and they don't talk in these vague Oprah Super Soul Sunday self-help. It's very self-helpy, and that's why I call it March, Pray, Love, because it just feels like the book Eat, Pray, Love. But listen to what she says about different approaches.
View justice is not a business transaction. You really have to make sure that you are bringing people with you, that you are consulting and collaborating with people, not because, I think sometimes when people say that, they go, oh, well, why do I have to go so slow? Why can't I just, take the shortest path from A to B? And it's because you'll also get the shortest solution if you don't dot all your I's and cross your T's.
What did she say? Listen to that again. She goes, you got to bring people with you when it's not a business transaction. You can't go the short way because you get the shortest solution. And it's nothing. She doesn't say anything. These people never say anything. They've done this to the tune of $90 million. It's amazing. Like, they've just said gibberish for like 7 years and a bunch of stuff about like heteronormative, black men suck, whatever. And have gotten it to the tune of, have gotten it in to the tune of 4 houses.
Because, I think sometimes when people say that, they go, oh, well, why do I have to go so slow? Why can't I just, take the shortest path from A to B? And it's because you'll also get the shortest solution if you don't dot all your I's and cross your T's. And I think we've seen time and time again how Donald Trump and others of his administration have really used Black communities for their own personal gain. They've made a lot of promises and a lot of platitudes. Donald Trump and his campaign spent a lot of money trying to break off Black voters from the Democratic Party. And for all the money that they broke off, they didn't break off enough Black voters for what they invested in. And so this is bigger than Cube. I actually think that, there's something to be said for not continuing to engage in politics as usual. And I know for Cube, I think he felt like he wasn't engaging in politics as usual, but there are so many transactions that are happening about us, without us every single day. And it has real impacts on people's lives. It has the impact of whether or not people have access to healthcare, whether or not people have access to protections on the job, whether or not people like me are protected from white nationalists and white supremacists who are sending me death threats.
There go the death threats again.
And so it is actually important for us to be mindful.
So the same type of pseudo-spiritual speech.
Not a business transaction, but that we all have to have some clarity about
like, okay, it's like consultant and self-help speak.
What our bottom lines are, what we will and won't compromise on, and what it looks like to achieve justice with integrity.
Justice with integrity. Yeah. So it's just a bunch of consultant speak, and every time they talk like that. There's no. It's comical, and just Google or watch any Elaine Brown speech, any interview, any Kwame Ture interview, and just look at the difference. It's just funny. Here's some more clips of different things. It's the give me a second. Everything is freezing up. Hold on.
You had people running for president who wanted to use Black Lives Matter, but didn't want to talk about how they were going to make Black Lives Matter. So they would talk about the middle class, or they would talk about HBCUs. I was like, what the fuck does that have to do with like putting food on people's tables and getting people healthcare? And we deserve that.
Okay, so unfortunately, this is like a 13-minute clip, so I can't play the whole thing.
You were talking about how you are not in this to be a brand, but nevertheless, with the popularity that you've now attained, it's also, it seemed to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that while you've tried to use this fame and celebrity to build other resources, to build power, but it has a dramatic impact on your life. You mentioned that you're a very private person, but I know, and I know in personal chats that we've had, that this has come also at the expense of your personal security.
That's right.
So
Personal security. So she sets
talk
up.
about
So she
that.
sets up right there the death threats thing. Like everyone who interviews them is trained to bring up the death threat things. Instead of the last guy brought up the death threats thing too.
That part of it. How has this, movement and the attention that you have received impacted how safe you feel in this country?
It was awful this summer in particular, but it's been awful for a while. We get death threats pretty regularly.
She said death threats regularly
online,
again.
right? All the time. And this summer in particular, I got visited at my home by the FBI. They found my name and Patrisse's name and a couple of elected officials' names.
Yeah, you know what? We made a bingo card for when you listen to these people, and iSign Info is right. I have to put death threats on there. They say it all the time.
On a piece of paper inside of the home of a man who was arrested on weapons charges, who they also came to know was a member of a white supremacist organization. And they had a duty to warn, and literally that's what they do. They come, they tell you the tiniest bit of information, scare the shit out of you, and then they're like, be cool and dip, right? So here's that on that. And it did. It meant that I, have and still do have round-the-clock security. Now, with that being said, the way that I feel safe is a couple ways. Number one, it's talking about it. I'm not the only organizer or activist right now who is getting these kinds of threats.
Now, again, this is more that new age self-help talk. So, first thing to do is they talk about it, so they have like a support group.
But I am more visible than a lot of the people who are getting these threats. And for a lot of folks, they don't know who to turn to. They don't know who to talk to about it. And they don't know if they should be talking about it. A lot of people think that if you are vocal about the threats that you're getting, that it'll encourage it. And it's actually quite the opposite. It's important for people to know what's going on with you so that they can look for you and check on you and know that there have been these things going on. And so if you go missing, people don't think you just dipped out for a second. People know, no, she's been getting death threats for a couple months. We need to put the fire up, right? So that's a thing. But also because
so the first thing that they must do is to talk about getting death threats all the time, is what she just said. So to keep death threats on people's minds. So she's been doing the first thing fine. Like they've really been doing that first thing.
Community will step up for you. And what I have found is that through this process, when I started having to have security like that, it forced me to talk to my neighbors. And I had been kind of like in the cut, you know what I mean? Just trying to do what I do, like quietly. And it forced me to talk to all my neighbors and be like, hey, this is what's happening with me. This is why you're seeing all this.
She's still not saying anything. She's like, well, I'm doing my work and in the cut, but she's not saying what she actually does. But then she goes right back to talking about death threats. So let's repeat that again. This is how vague this part is. And look at how Jemele Hill is trying to act like this is so riveting. Like, look at Jemele Hill's face. Like, these are the worst journalists ever.
Like that, it forced me to talk to my neighbors. And I had been kind of like in the cut, you know what I
mean? In the cut. Let's keep it vague on what she does.
I mean, just trying to do what I do. Like,
this is like that dude that comes to the barbershop and you never know what he does. But you know something shady, and you always ask him, he goes, yeah, I'm just parlaying. I'm just I'm in the cut, I'm just keeping it real, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, dude, you're robbing somebody. You're doing something. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's like vague hustler speak.
Like quietly, and it forced me to talk to all my neighbors and be like, hey, this is what's happening with me. This is why you're seeing all this. And every single one of my neighbors was like, yo, that's dope. And also, ain't nobody gonna fuck with you over here. Let me tell you what, my one neighbor put a Black Lives Matter flag right on her house. She was like, I am telling you right now, these people better not, because we will turn up. So it was a beautiful thing at the same time. And I feel much more safe because of that than I do because of security, right? And I think when we talk about it too, it also takes the shame away from it.
So now she's talking about shame. So more like therapy speak. What does any of this have to do with building Black power? Like, these people never actually talk about anything tangible. They don't tell people a call to action, something they can do in the neighborhood. They just talk about themselves and their death threats. And, then they go to therapy speak and then talk about a couple talking points. So now it's about shame and working through your feelings.
The way in which people say crazy shit to you in the cut, and they do it in the cut because they would be ashamed to say some of this stuff in public. And Jemele, I know you get these, right? People call you.
So basically, she's talking about people bad mouthing her. This is all she's talking about. So first is the death threats, and that people shouldn't say anything bad to her because she gets death threats. And if anything, the Black community should be rallying around her. Now it's on top of that, you should never say anything bad about me, because that comes from shame, and it's
all kinds of things, and talk about your mama and your grandpa, and you're an evil, terrible person. And if you don't get it out somehow, you internalize it. So that has helped me a lot too, just talking about it and engaging my community around it as well.
Was it ever at a point where you wondered if maybe you should back off a little bit? Did it ever make you want to, sort of be more guarded about what you said, or just, turn down a little because you realized you were inciting some people?
Yeah, you're just doing too much.
I don't know if that ever crossed your mind.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me this summer, I haven't been at BLM since 2017. So the weird part for me about this summer was that this thing that I helped to build is all over the place. And I'm like, I'm not there anymore. I'm building Black political power over at the Black Futures Lab. And so in a lot of ways, that was helpful for me. And also, honestly, yes, there are times when you're like, well, let me, be more diplomatic. But this time around, I have to tell you, it actually emboldened me in a weird way. Like, I kind of just got to a point where I was like, you know what, fuck y'all. Like, honestly, this is exactly why this is happening. Okay, so let's just.
What have they spoken about so far?
Maybe it's getting older. I don't know, but
it's been like 6 minutes. They haven't talked about anything.
Like, no, I'm gonna say it louder, actually, and let me put a fine point on it so you didn't miss it.
Right? Let me say it in all caps. Now what?
Yeah. So all they're talking about is, I'm gonna speak my voice louder. This is that same new age self-help empowerment talk. I'm not gonna hide my light under a bushel. I'm gonna own my voice. This is just Oprah, Brene Brown, speak. I'm not going to internalize the shame.
In case you missed me the first fucking time.
Exactly.
No, I feel I overstand.
I'm gonna shake it off. It's like Taylor Swift feminism
as well. Like, oh, did you ever think about basically calming down? I'm like, hell no. It just makes me want to piss you off even more, which is why Lil Nas.
And I love how they're just patting themselves on the back, like, I'm just gonna keep going harder in this activism space and just keep kicking over tables. Like, you guys, you're not doing that. It just stop.
Nas X is my hero of the moment because
you said Lil Nas X is the hero of the movement.
He's
a whole ass mood. I just love it.
And had the social media plan to back it up. He was like, oh no, I'm gonna go with y'all trolls.
Oh, he thought about this.
Yeah, so Lil Nas X and his social media trolling is who they admire the most for living his voice, whatever.
He plotted,
so did.
For my Game of Thrones fans out there, he was like Cersei sitting there plotting to blow up the whole fucking city. Like, that was Lil Nas X. He was like, I've been thinking about this and waiting on the moment.
Trolling governors. He was like, don't you have a job to do? You're like a whole ass governor. You should be doing your job instead of worrying about my videos. How about that?
Pretty much.
That's a fact.
There is nothing to be disputed with that. You just said it a second ago, and it was perfect because it was where I was heading next. You decided to leave Black Lives Matter a few years ago, and now you're doing Black Futures Lab. Why was that time the time for you to branch off and do and concentrate more on the political aspect and harnessing political power?
Mm-hmm. Look, I've been doing this work for a long time.
I've been doing this
And
work.
one
It's
of the
all about
things
herself.
that I have always struggled with is this question of political power and how we build it. And I find that often in our movements, because there's so much corruption in government, because there's so much big money in politics, we're so deeply cynical about the possibility of change in that arena. And so we leave it, and we leave it for other people to shape. And that's exactly what our opposition has been doing for 40 years. They
How
have
is this
not shied
tangible?
away
Is this
from that.
more
They've
vagueness?
taken it on with all the contradictions. They don't like each other. They think politicians are corrupt too. They just prefer to be them. So, for me.
Okay, all right. That's pretty terrible. Let me see. I have one more clip here. Maybe this one's better. I mean, no, it won't be better, but let's see. Because this thing went on for a while, and that was getting repetitive. This is some Clubhouse LLC. Some of these comments be really funny, man. Someone said, watch him create a cryptocurrency, shea coin, like shea butter coin or something, septum coin. I don't know.
And I want people to ask themselves the same questions that I'm asking myself. How did we get here? How was I shaped?
I remember why I wanted to use this clip. This clip is more of that March, Pray, Love stuff. So check out this clip. Hold on. The stuff she's saying about it's just such a babble.
People to ask themselves the same questions that I'm asking myself. How did we get here? How was I shaped? Why do I believe the things that I believe? What was going on around me as I was growing up that shaped my view of the world? And how does that impact how I do or don't take action today?
Yeah, this is just all like navel gazing therapy type
Alicia,
stuff.
since I know you in real life, I'm going to start this podcast the same way I'm told that you start your Black Futures Lab meetings. Okay.
Okay.
First, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I am I'm desert living right now, and it's good for my spirit. I needed that heat, like all the way into my bones, not just
we're going to talk about this part, Kamaria.
Feeling good.
Okay, you needed it to seep in. I understand. Second, what's something amazing that has happened to you this week?
Ooh. Okay, I'm not going to share that one.
That seemed like that was the good one right there.
I'm like, something amazing that happened to me this week is I did not cuss out my landlord, and he definitely deserved it.
Okay, so you showed some restraint, and that was
I did. I didn't let Lily come out. You know what I'm saying?
Because that's what people need to understand. There's two.
That's right.
We all have the alter ego.
We all have the alter
code switching.
ego,
That's on the bingo card.
You don't
want to meet Lily? All right.
It's a Harvard. It's a Harvard trip.
What's something that's causing you anxiety?
The state of the world right now is causing me anxiety, and one thing in particular is the unrealistic expectations that people have of movements. It's so weirdly transactional. It's like, I put a quarter in and now I should get.
Yeah. People have this weird thing where they expect movements to accomplish things. That's really bothering me.
People have of movements. It's so weirdly transactional. It's like, I put a quarter in and now I should get this.
I like how she describes $90 million as a quarter.
And this. I'm like, that is not how this works.
No, you give us $90 million and we buy houses.
That is like giving me heartburn a little bit, trying to think about, as we have all these people who are participating who did not before, how do we keep people involved, understanding that it's not like going to a convenience store, right? This is a lifelong struggle. This is a lifelong fight. And of course, we push hard to win things in real time, but that takes time. And it takes commitment. So that's something that's causing me some anxiety.
Same old vague March Pray,
and
Love.
I'm glad you brought that up because we'll get to it later, because a good portion of your book, which I found to be really spectacular, is about movement building. And it forced me certainly to think of movement building in a much different way than I think I had before. So I'm glad you said that about the transactional nature, because I think that is very much how people look at what movements are supposed to do. What's something that has disappointed
yes,
you?
self-care should be in the card.
You know, something that has disappointed me is how quick we are to just like tear people up. It's really weird to me. I'm like, yo, like I see people shining and I love it. It like literally makes me happy. I mean, right before we got on here, I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw Tarana Burke just is about to like drop a movie. You know, it's
That's
like
on
a
the
bunch
bingo
of people,
card. Always name
she's
dropping
like,
their
it's coming
friends'
out in
work.
theaters on Mother's Day, and I'm like, yes, you know, like
That's on the
I
bingo
get
card.
excited
A constant
when
name
people
dropping of
who
their
I
friends.
see out in the world doing good things.
They love plugging their
do
friends.
more good things. And I never have that feeling inside of me like, well, why do you get to do it? And I never get that. And I don't know, maybe that's privilege, it's possible. But I just, the thing that disappoints me is when I see us not rooting for us.
So basically, you're supposed to just blindly
There's a lot
root
of
for
that
her.
going around, because
And if you don't, you're a hater.
Also, and it's a condition of living in this country, we buy into the same narrative about scarcity, about that if there is money for one, there can't be money for everybody else, that we buy into that a lot. I mean, it's frankly how most of us have grown up.
It's like prosperity gospel talk. Like prosperity gospel talk saying there's money for everyone. If your pastor's getting rich,
I took this
that
from
should
your book,
make
and
you
I knew
happy
this
because that means you can get
person,
rich.
because I think whatever platform you're on, there's a certain joy that you bring to it, even if you're talking about something serious, is that the optimism, I sense it, right? And so because of that, I am more impressed with that part of it, because I'm a journalist, I'm cynical. I'm like, damn these people, to hell with everybody, fuck all y'all. Like that's like, right? And that's not to say that sometimes you may not feel that way. As well.
I do.
For the record, this is after the Four Houses came out.
That's totally normal and natural, but nevertheless, though, you maintain a faith that I think people would be surprised by, because I think they assume people who start movements or are part of movements are angry people. How often do you think people are surprised?
Yeah, this is horribly self-congratulatory, and they're not talking about the houses. At some point, they talk about the houses, but I'm not sure exactly where in this they're going to talk about the houses.
I always think about this one Seinfeld episode where Elaine dates a communist, and the guy is like dressed in all drab green, and he's totally boring, and he like literally makes you want to slit your wrists. I'm like, this is the problem. This is exactly how people think the movement is. Look, for me, I feel like part of what it means to build movement is to help people and yourself tap into not just all the things that are wrong, but all the things that can be right.
This is more
really,
March, Pray, Love.
Invest in that vision.
Nothing tangible.
That's what drives me every day.
Just self-care and self-help crap.
Of course, I want to cuss people out all the time, and I'm glad I have restraint. There's
Positive
a lot of times
thinking,
I'm like, why am I doing this?
Get into your vibe.
Anything. My mom wanted me to be an architect.
Yeah,
I can do that. You know,
get that self-empowerment.
But every day I'm choosing to do this, and what gets me out of bed is thinking about winning for our folks. Every single day when I don't want to.
What does winning mean? There's no plan here. This is not politics. I'm tired.
Every day I put my feet on those
positive
floor,
thinking,
like,
get that hustle on.
We could be winning things for Black folks. So let's get to it.
What are those winning? What are those things? This is just prosperity gospel, self-help, TD Jakes.
I invest in it. And I think people are surprised.
The Secret.
I think people are surprised about the fact that we're not super boring and that we do.
Oh God, it's just nonsense. And that whole thing, I think, is over an hour. That thing. I'm highly skeptical that there's a gem in there that I just didn't get to. I mean, I've seen in total about 20 minutes of the thing, and it's just unbearable like that. And it's just self-aggrandizing, humble bragging, giving each other reach arounds, and just the vaguest consultant speak, self-care type speak. it's so narcissistic. It's very, very narcissistic. But you can just watch the whole thing. They say nothing. I can't believe they made that. But that's why they're controlled opposition. Like, they're perfect. It's no wonder the establishment loves them. Like, they can talk for hours and hours, and no one is going to be motivated to do anything tangible, except just kind of do it. It's like a giant prayer circle. It's just, like I said, Super Soul Sunday. It's and you can't criticize them, and the code switching is really crazy and stuff. Someone said, "Don't worry if I write rhymes. I have checks." Man, we got no donations tonight. We're the anti. They say nothing and they get a ton of donations. I feel like we drop heat, man. We get nothing, man. I gotta start talking like her, and then I'll start getting those donations. That's what I got to do. I'm gonna start, living my truth, and you know, realizing who I am and who I want to be, and embracing that self love and shaking off that shame. We got to shake it off like Taylor Swift, and if I do for you, you do for me, and that give or take, that's community, and we're gonna be in community with each other. And sometimes you got a code switch. This is a new Champagne Sharks. We're gonna talk just like that, just for like 2 hours. You're just gonna see all this stuff. Yeah, I got a name drop. Yeah, I need crazier video titles, and I need to just talk very circular. That's my problem. I'm too have too much of a plan. Oh damn. Damn, Adidas Alita stepped up. Oh shoot, this worked. You said that little bit of talk I did about the shame. You see that? Suddenly people started donating. Yeah, I think y'all like that. I think I gotta do more of that. Let me show y'all the bingo card. This is the last thing I'm gonna do before we go. Thank you, Adidas Elitas. Thank you, Ezekiel Caseton. Thank you, Nick. Mindfully incentivize your primary intention. Yeah, I think I got to do that, man. I think it's working. Thank you, fuck you, Google. Yeah, so as long as I grift with intentionality and make sure to manifest in community with everyone all the accountability that I want to see happen, I think that we're going to reap in a lot of dividends and benefits. Yeah, Harrison, $9.99. Yo, this is working, man. I now realize I should have been in community with Patrisse and Alicia, and I would have been able to disincentivize all the cis hetero patriarchal normative thinking that I was manifesting that was keeping me hating their winning. I was hating their winning, and that's why. Yeah. So let me show you all this. This is what I was working on. I'm gonna put a link up to this, right? I know what I'm going to edit the what do you call it? The description to put this in there. But we have this, and you can use this for watching any show by woke Black people, or reading Twitter threads where a lot of them are on, or if you're watching videos like what we just had. Let me show you all real quick. But this is pretty cool. And some of y'all gave me some advice to add some stuff on it, so I'm going to add self-care. I'm going to add some other stuff. Let's see. Y'all comedically are on point. We got some of the funniest super chat people. Okay, here it is. So check this out, right? This is the link. I'm going to share it with y'all, and this is pretty cool. So that's what we're going to end on. It's the Champagne Sharks Woke Black Creatives card, right? So, oh, thank you, Cherries, for a donation. Thank you, iSound Info. It's appreciated. I said, you got to remind us to people to donate when you get us all fired up about the grift like this. Yeah, aren't you cool, Brianna Joy Gray? Oh, thank you, Pian Silvador. Hold on, where is it? It says, aren't you cool, Brianna Joy Gray? She started her show from your pocket champ from scratch and gets good views these days. Yeah, we got to keep in mind she's doing it with a ex Chapo guy, and she was a press secretary for Bernie Sanders. She's got like 300, 400,000 followers, so it definitely helps. You know what I mean? Which does not take away anything from her, but that is a pretty good platform to spin off from. Yeah. So check this out. I'm gonna hit generate card. There's more clues and spots, so no one card has everything on it. So that gives a chance for one card to be more heavily. But check this out, and this is why so good. I feel like I mastered the language. So there's black patriarchy or black male privilege, using the word bodies, systematizing or historicizing historical personal resentments. What that means is like Kenny's favorite word, presentism, or like for example, they want to talk about not being liked in high school, but the black boys were getting more attention from the white people because they were athletes. They can't just have the story be about that. So the first 4 paragraphs will be about a history of black women getting raped in the South, especially post Jim Crow and during slavery, and most of the historic preachers were black men. They'll have some kind of systemic or historic issue, and then used as a Trojan horse to eventually talk about what they really want to talk about, which is like incel shit. So, and they do it in a lot of things. Like for example, if you watch them starts off with all this crazy Jim Crow terrorism to get to what I really want to talk about, which is bourgeois concerns about like the white people in your workplace are talking slick. And when you try to move into a white neighborhood, they don't always accept you. Like them by Amazon was really about assimilation anxiety, but they pretend that it's about, discussing redlining and Jim Crow racial terrorism, and it's really not, or they try to tie in like systemic issues with a really weirdly personal group. So that's what that one is. Harvard, Yale, Stanford, NYU, or Howard. That's one of the things. Bringing up the Combahee Collective for no real reason. Like a lot of these articles will be about like how some black woman was trolled online, or some black guy who they rock with didn't get an award or something, but there'll be somewhere a history lesson about intersectionality, and the Combahee Collective said we won't be free until everybody's free or something, and it's like they just bring up the Combahee Collective when it has nothing to do with the article. And I don't know, it's just a signal that to other people that, hey, we're from the right tribe. The range is on a different one. It's not in this one. Yeah, Army is a pretty good following. Yeah, I mean, if you want me to have more of a following, man, then just tell everyone you know about me. Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the best thing to do. Oh yeah, the Coley is good, man. I love the Coley. Yeah. Yeah, really, that's the best. That's the best you could do, man. Just tell everybody. Yeah, I've been on the show a few times. I've been on Bad Faith twice, but I also don't think everybody is not every place I go is the audience for the show. So I'll say that. Like, I don't think the Bad Faith audience is really this audience, but I just like the show and I like helping them out. But let's see. So there's presentism, lying about breaking new ground for black people. Like they always act like everything they do is the first time something's happened for black people. So the example I've used on this website is the example I used is Issa Rae, and they always act like she's the first person to have a show about regular black people. I've shown the headlines before on this stream about how they have all these articles, and it'll be like So you're the first show where everybody wasn't a rapper or an Amazon or larger than life, but and she's like, yeah, that was me as the first person to ever like. I always felt like there weren't just regular old black folk on TV. It was always like, larger than life, whatever. And I said, maybe we should have regular people. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's so many shows, things like What's Happening and Family Matters and all these shows I could think of. Rock, where the guy's a garbage man. Like there's like what are you talking about? But yeah, hoteps are hotepping again. That's like when someone's criticizing, they always say it's like a hotep. Desirability politics. That's like the nice word for woke incel politics. Black men and or white women are weaker links than black women and or white men. Like one of the things they try to do is they always try to say like somehow white men have become better than somehow white men have become more woke and better and more progressive than black men. So almost against their will, they're being forced to realize that they're actually more politically progressive than black men. It's pretty funny. For some reason, I don't know why, TikTok really has a lot of these people who just do these like silly videos. And I could give you some examples, but again, the computer's going super slow. They are really funny though. TikTok is so full of these weird videos of people making these bizarre claims. Like, hold on. Let's see. I want to find an example of this one. But also, these aren't all the things. Like we actually have more. You know what? I'll save this for another instance because the computer's just too slow today. This broadband is not cooperating. But yeah, there was one girl that was just yeah, TikTok Kun is real. It's next level. The stuff they be talking about there. Yeah, I have to do it another time. But yeah, I mean, you see all this stuff, the range, colorism, ancestors, calling trivial things reparations, saying y'all ain't ready for the conversation, trauma. And doing like race play type stuff, but pretending it's a joke, or pretending that you're doing it because it's actually woke. Oh, comedy writer is one of them. For some reason, everyone's a comedy writer now. Yeah, Octavia Butler is really good, and yeah, they've totally taken possession of her. Yeah, I'm gonna try to have. Oh, what's the range? Whenever they get owned in an argument by anybody, like say they like get into an argument with like Rennie Tay or Jemele the creator on Twitter, or Tommy Curry, and somebody eats them up, they always say, yeah, they'll always summarize the argument. They'll be like, yeah, we went somewhere to have the discussion, but those cishet hoteps just didn't have the range. So they couldn't understand. Like they're always talking about all the time that they have the range, even though they say the same 15 things all day long. Like it's funny, they actually have no range. Like this bingo card is basically all their range. But they always claim that the reason why people can't ever be persuaded by them because they don't have all the range that they have. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, criticizing white women but leaving white men out. Code switching. So you started in this one. We talked about code switching, and Alicia Garza was talking about how Lily comes out. They always like to talk about how they're always embarrassing performative thirst for white men. So you saw that with Tom Hanks when giving a white person honorary blackness for achieving the bare minimum. Yeah, some of this. Yeah, so I'm gonna put the link to that in the description after we're done. But yeah, so when you watch one of these new streaming shows that comes out, that all the blue checks celebrate. If you want to watch a Jemele Hill interview with somebody, or watch Patrisse Cullors or Alicia Garza pontificate, or look at a TikTok by somebody woke, just use the bingo card. I was thinking of organizing like bingo cards, bingo games where everyone generates their own, and then we just listen along to something together, and just whoever wins will get like a prize, like a Champagne Sharks mug or whatever. Whoever can get bingo. But I think we captured like everything. Basically, that card doesn't have all the clues. Every time you generate a card, there's a different combination of clues, and no one card fits all the clues. So 2 different cards might have 2 different clues. Yes, yeah. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. And that's the last one about the BLM stuff. That was the last one I wanted to do. And just get the one last thing I want to show. Actually, I forgot one last thing. Check this out. I meant to put this on mute because I think I'll get a copyright strike. But this is the other thing Tamika Mallory did, which I thought was pretty horrible. Did you guys see the performance for the Grammys? This is the one that made all the mothers mad. This is what made Tamir Rice's mother and all the other ones get fed up and called him out. They had this Black Lives Matter thing, and this is that guy Kendrick Sampson. Remember Kendrick Sampson? We talked about him. He's on Insecure, and he's one of these actors / activists. So they start with a James Baldwin speech. James Baldwin's on one of the bingo cards, evoking James Baldwin. So then he runs away. The cop shoots him, and then the guy starts rapping. It's at the Grammys, and then Lil Baby's rapping, and the protesters or whatever. But this is the part that took me out. It's gonna take a little while to get there, but check this out. This is the part that took me out. Let me take the sound down so I don't get the thing. I don't get the. But then so he's rapping, and there's a riot going on in the back. This guy throws a Molotov cocktail, but he does the flip. It starts dancing. So I got this fake Molotov cocktail, and this is the biggest example of what I call recuperation. A long time. They've just taken all the optics of protest and just have totally made it into entertainment and spectacle. It's like the Grammys is doing this, just having a protest Antifa musical number, and they're all dancing in the lineup. The whole thing is just crazy and funny. And this is, I don't blame Tamir Rice and all the other mothers for getting mad at this. Picture someone sending you this from the Grammys, right? Where your thing has just become a performance piece for rich people. But and this is Tamika Mallory appeared at the Grammys. This is shortly before her Cadillac commercial became public, which then made it even worse. But check it out. She's doing slam poetry. Oh, I didn't realize. Is it not up? Oh, damn it. All this time I thought I had it on the screen. Damn, this is messed up. So all this time, I thought you guys could see it.
I can see in your eyes that you fed up. Mess around, got my shot, I won't let up. I know
My bad. Hold on.
They know that we can start me. And it's big and in black and white. It's a problem with the.
So I'm slipping up. Let me go back. So I messed up. I thought you guys could see it all this time, and you guys could not see it. So I'm just basically talking, and you guys can't see. But so check this out. That Antifa performance number. We're gonna show it again. This is what you guys are supposed to be seeing. So this is Kendrick Sampson. I gotta turn the volume off so that I don't get the copyright strike. But there's a James Baldwin. I'll let you hear the James Baldwin part.
And brought to America.
So James Baldwin belongs on the bingo card.
I believed it. I didn't have much choice.
So he gets away, he gets shot, and then they start rapping. And then they have the protest dancers. So the dancers are dancing in the protest, and the cop is in the back harassing them. So you can see it now. And then this is the best part. This is the part that takes me out. Check it out. And now you're gonna see all these. So I was describing it, but I thought you guys were seeing it too. So the cop is standing over a body in the background, and then this guy throws a Molotov cocktail. Then he just starts dancing. So you see him like flip out and do the dance. Then he disappears. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't do this. Have the cops start dancing with them. And the reason I'm talking over the music is because the copyright strike will happen. So if you want to hear the music, unfortunately, I'm going to talk over all of it. So then they have this lineup come, right? And then the lineup starts dancing. So watch. Check it out. Now they stand both directions. Now and now they start like crumping. Yeah, can you see that? Can you see them? Can you see them dancing? the lineup is dancing. So the lineup still starts busting a move and whatever. And this is where Tamika Mallory comes.
It's been a hell of a year. Hell for over 400 years. My people, it's time we stand. It's time we demand the freedom that this land.
So she's just doing slam poetry.
President Biden, we demand justice, equity, policy, and everything else that freedom encompasses. And to accomplish this, we don't need allies. We need accomplices. It's bigger than black and white. This is not a trend. This is our plight. Until freedom. Until freedom.
Yeah, then he starts rapping again, more dancing and fake protesting and stuff. So yeah, that is what turned the mothers of the Black Lives Matter movement. Yeah, so it was basically like Einstein Info says, it was the Heights meets Antifa. It was Sister Soldier. Yeah. It's almost like comical, but the thing when he throws a Molotov cocktail, then he just flips and starts crumping. That's like the best. Like it's just so funny. They're just taking like Molotov cocktails and made like dinner party entertainment for rich people at the Grammys off of that. So and that was before the Cadillac commercial came out. So I know she must have been pissed when the Cadillac commercial came out right at the peak of that complaint and everything. Yeah, so then after that, rightfully so, all the mothers of the movement just lost it. They're like, this chick is on TV doing like slam poetry interludes to the Grammys off of our kids' like dead bodies and names, and we haven't heard from her like in forever and stuff. So if we check it out here, I think this is it. If it ever pops up. But no, this is not it. I want to show the complaints that came out the day after from Samaria Rice and all the other mothers of the movement, just basically tearing into Tamika Mallory and complaining that she just came out of nowhere. I'll save that for next time because we're done with the BLM people, but I do want to talk about Tamika Mallory and some other people next time and just how crazy all that is. But yeah, that's basically it for today, and we're done with that. That was the last of of all that. We're going to talk about the influencer stuff more next time, and how there's still a lot of influencers out there, and it's pretty crazy. But yeah, isn't that something like what I just showed you? It's kind of comical, except it's not funny. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like springtime for Hitler type stuff. Yeah, Sister Soldier is a great. I gotta take that for episode title at someone. Yeah, and again, it's all conservative plot. Like someone said, it's all it's always a conservative plot. I actually found the complaint, so I'll end on that. This is what I meant to pull up before. And then a lot of people start calling some the mothers haters, which is like so disgusting. Like, how can you call yourself like an activist and then call these people who lost their kids haters? But yeah, one of the problems with like a lot of regular black folk is that I feel like a lot of regular black folks, not like these blue checks or like media savvy types, a lot of us still cling to Facebook and Instagram, and that's not a good place to do agitprop and propaganda. Well, the good thing about all these scammers is that they realize, despite having a smaller reach, Twitter is where you propagandize, because Twitter is where your stuff hits strangers. But Instagram and Facebook is for your friends and family. The only reason this went viral is because someone from Twitter screen capped all these people's Facebook walls and Instagram pages, and then went viral from that. But I think that's one of the things, and this will happen to like a lot of the people in the original Ferguson movement. They weren't Twitter savvy, and Twitter's own universe, they had no idea these people were blowing up off their name on Twitter. And then when they complained about it, they still complained on Facebook and Instagram. So they're still in that closed ecosystem. And I feel like a lot of black people and just regular like blue collar folk or whatever, or just normies, like Facebook and Instagram better. And sadly, like Twitter is where it wasn't until Darren Seals caught on to Twitter and picked up on Twitter and started using Twitter, because somebody told him, hey, you know, on Twitter, all those people are saying that they led the Ferguson movement. And he didn't know for a good year these people were taking credit because he wasn't in that Twitter world. And once he went on Twitter and started using Twitter, that was when the narrative started unraveling. So what happened here is Samaria Rice and all these people, they made these complaints on other social media platforms, but luckily it got transferred to Twitter and it got traction. So Samaria Rice, I can't tell if this is Facebook or Instagram. I think it's Facebook. On the Facebook wall, she goes, look at this clout chaser. Did she lose something in this fight? I don't think so. That's the problem. They take us for a joke. That's why we never have justice, because of shit like this. Because now this politics said, you know, Tamika Mallory brings the fire emoji to Little Baby's Grammy performance. Like, you know, they gave some breathless coverage to it, you know, in the white liberal media. And then Samaria Rice put this on Instagram. So the first one she did on Twitter, the first one she did on Facebook, then she went on Instagram and put, I'm tired of you Black Lives Matter, Tamika Mallory and crew bitches that's riding these families back, and y'all ambulance chasing attorneys, Ben Crump, Lee Merrick, too. Y'all have fucked up our fight, and y'all can kiss my ass too. Make it make sense. You can't. Working with the devil is too easy to do. Fuck y'all. And again, the media did not report this. I have tried to stay off this shit. Tamika and the crew, you bitches chasing clout along with Sonny, Crump, and Lee. You have literally fucked up our fight. I hope not another family soul use y'all to represent them. You might as well be junior pigs cops. I'm mad as hell. And she also wrote like a longer paragraph talking about she hasn't seen them in forever and they disappeared. Yeah, so that's, I think, is the biggest problem. Like, we're going to get a lot more normies getting used to using Twitter, you know? Yeah. Hey Kenzo, of class time. Yeah, Twitter is just highly concentrated mental illness, but let's be honest, all social media is. So if you're gonna be doing highly concentrated mental illness, at least use the one that's gonna get the most of your counter propaganda out there. Sadly, you know. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. That's the real end this time. Thank y'all for doing this. We'll be back more often. We will talk soon. Love y'all. And thanks for all the donations. I'm going to try to put in more New Age Super Soul Sunday speak because I think that really activated you guys. I'll make sure to stand in community with everybody and make sure to hold space for all types of, you know, community building exercises and restorative justice, and to do more transformative space for people to be able to check their privilege and feel affirmed, so yeah, thanks for entering this space, and that we had a lot of bodies up in here tonight making comments in the super chat. And yeah, and thanks Ruzbeh for nurturing the space to make it grow with empathy. That's very important. You can't do movement building without empathy building, and you can't build empathy without building big hearts and souls, and not expecting transactional things to happen. So yeah, I'm glad that we decolonized this space for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Philopian feels seen, so that's great. That's wonderful, as long as everyone feels affirmed and feels seen, and we are taking accountability of our Black patriarchy and making sure that all Black lives matter, and that we listen and trust the voices that are the most marginalized in our spaces, and make sure that they're affirmed. And we get tired. We all get tired. I'm so tired. You're so tired. But freedom is not free, and freedom, costs. And you make sure that what it costs leads up to what it is that everyone's willing to spend, and no one can spend too little or too much. Just make sure to donate to Champagne Sharks. All right. Be good, everybody. Take care. Love y'all. Later.